Srivasadi Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're going to continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, Text 5. We have been hearing Ṛṣabhadeva's instructions to his sons. And we heard yesterday where he's saying Mahat Seva Dwaram, that the doors of liberation open by serving the devotees, by serving those who are liberated. Parabhavastavat abhodajato.
Parabhavutavad abhodjato.
Thank you. Yavanajijyasata atmatattvam.
Yavat na jigyasate atmatattvam.
Yavat kriyastavat idamano vai.
Yavat kriyatavato idamanove.
Karmatmakam yena sharira bandha.
Karma atmakam yen sharir bandha.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka, colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, he has to accept a material body. Generally, people think that one should act very piously in order to be relieved from misery, but this is not a fact. Even though one engages in pious activity and speculation, he is nonetheless defeated. His only aim should be emancipation from the clutches of Maya and all material activities. So, generally what we think if I act piously, I will have no more misery. But the real fact is we will have no more misery when we actually get out of the material world. Because the nature of the material world is that there is misery. Abrahma bhuvana loka, Krishna says, dukhalayam ashasvatam, right from ant to Brahmalok, everywhere is places of misery. So we are thinking we'll act piously, we'll get free from misery, but actually it's the spiritual activities that can actually free us from the miseries. Speculative knowledge and pious activity do not solve the problems of material life. One should be inquisitive to understand his spiritual position. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.37, Yathaidamsi samitognir bhasmat kurute arjuna janagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes, all reactions to material activities. So the transcendental knowledge, Krishna is saying, get this transcendental knowledge. Unless one understands the self and its activities, one has to be considered in material bondage. That's the reason we are always encouraged to hear from Bhagavatam, hear from Bhagavad Gita, so that we can get this transcendental knowledge. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Text 32, it is also said, Ye nye ravindaksha vimuktamaninas asta bhavan avishuddha buddhaya. A person who doesn't have knowledge of devotional service may think himself liberated, but actually he is not. So Bhagavatam is saying, Canto 10, Chapter 2, that one may think, one is already liberated. But in fact, if they are not engaged in devotional service, if they have no knowledge of devotional service, they are not liberated. In fact, it may be in the mind one is thinking, but in the fact he is not. Aruya krichrena parampadam tatapatanti ado nadrata yusmat angrayaha. Such people may approach the impersonal Brahman effulgence, but they fall down again into material enjoyment because they have no knowledge of devotional service. So one may actually be liberated, actually be in the Brahman, in the Brahmajyoti, so qualified. One is understood, Aham Brahmasmi, I'm the spirit soul. Understood, I'm not the body. So one is on the platform of Brahman. But the soul is always active. Now, how to act? If one has no knowledge of devotional service, one will again act materially, become great philanthropists and do a lot of welfare activities. But again, those are on the material platform. As long as one is interested in karma and jnana, he continues enduring the miseries of material life, birth, old age, disease, and death. Karmis certainly take on one body after another. As far as jnanis are concerned, unless they are promoted to the topmost understanding, they must return to the material world. So, karmis, of course, we want to enjoy the result of our activities. So, of course, we are creating more and more bodies for ourselves in which our desires will be fulfilled. And the jnani also, because he has no knowledge of the spiritual planets, no knowledge of spiritual activities, again comes to the material world to engage in material activities. As explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 19, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. The point is to know Krishna Vasudev as everything and surrender unto him. So Krishna is saying, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. One who is actually in knowledge. So after when one is taking the path of knowledge, after many, many births and deaths, then one will come to understand, Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and I must surrender to Krishna. Then at that moment, that begins devotional service. So we can see that by the process of knowledge, it takes a long time. Bahunam Janmanam Ante. Many, many births and deaths. But anyway, one will come to Krishna. If one has to come to Krishna because he's the Supreme Lord, he's the absolute truth. So karmis do not know this, but a devotee who is 100% engaged in the devotional service of the Lord knows fully what is karma and jnana. Therefore, a pure devotee is no longer interested in karma or jnana. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. The real bhakta is untouched by any tinge of karma and jnana. His only purpose in life is to serve the Lord. So this is the consciousness of a pure devotee. He's completely understood his position that I'm eternal servant of Krishna, and he acts only for the pleasure of Krishna. He's understood he's not the body. And because he's understood he's not the body, he's no more interested in, he does not have any more material desires. He has no desire to enjoy the material world because he understands he belongs to the spiritual world. And he understands that everything belongs to Krishna. So he engages everything in service of Krishna. So his only purpose in life is to serve the Lord. And he's not interested to become God. He's not interested to enter the Brahman, Brahmajyoti. He just wants to engage in service to Krishna. Is that okay?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Did anyone want to comment anything? I don't know.
Just for the
Going on?
understanding. Just for the
Yes.
understanding. So that means that the devotee has no interest. Anya Bilashita Shunya means that he doesn't want just no pious result, nothing. Like he wants nothing, no gyan, no karma result, nothing. He just wants to serve Krishna. He doesn't
Yes.
have any other desire, right? The pure devotional
Yes.
soul. A devotee just
Yes.
wants that. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Anya Bilash. Abhilash, no Anya Bilash, no desire. Anya Bilash, Shunyam. So Abhilash, the desires, become Shunyam. No. Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. No desire for material, no desire, material desire, no desire to become one with the Brahman, nothing. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Evam manakarma vasham prayukte
Evam mana karma vasham prayukte
avidyayatmani apadhyamane
avidya atmani upadhyamane
priti nayaman mai vasudeve
priti nayavat mai vasudeve
namuchyate deha yogena tavat.
namuchyate deha yogena tavat.
When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated by fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. Can you just give me one moment, please? Just be back.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare,
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you. Purpose. When the mind is polluted by fruitive activity, the living entity wants to be elevated from one material position to another. Right? This is what we want. That I have this today, but if I have more, then I will be happier. This is our desires. No? I have this much, oh, but I will get more and more, and then I'll be happier and happier. We want higher and higher position in the material world. Generally, everyone is involved in working hard day and night to improve his economic condition. Even when one understands the Vedic rituals, he becomes interested in promotion to heavenly planets, not knowing that one's real interest lies in returning home, back to Godhead. Yeah, so the Vedas, one may get caught up in the flowery language of the Vedas. You know, the Vedic hymns may distract one, and one may think that going to the heavenly planets, that's the aim of life. One may completely get bewildered that, oh, actually, I'm not a body, I'm spirit soul, that I should actually go back home, back to Godhead. By acting on the platform of creative activity, one wanders throughout the universe in different species and forms. So, what happens? Because we want to enjoy the results of our activity, we do something because we say, I'm going to enjoy. So, that desire is there. Then, to fulfill that desire, and based on how we have acted, we get a suitable body in the next life. And that suitable body could be in any planet of any universe, in any species. Because how we have acted, that also has to be taken into account, because desire is there, but, like what karma do we have? For example, if we have 1,000 NT, we are going to the supermarket, then we can buy only that whatever we have, whatever we may have so many desires, but then we can buy only up to 1,000 NT, right? If somebody has 10,000, then they can buy up to 10,000. So the karma also is important of how one has acted, but it'll be in different species. If the karma is better, will be in higher species. Karma is meant to go to the animal life, then one will go to animal species. But it's because of our desire to enjoy the material world. Unless he comes in contact with a devotee of the Lord, a guru, he does not become attached to the service of Lord Vasudeva. So we have been wandering. Lord Chaitanya says, right? Brahmata bhumite. What is that verse? That we are wandering in
Konu bhagyavan jeev. Bharat bhumi mein konu bhagyavan.
Bhagavaji, Guru Krishna Ṛṣabhadeva, Bhakti Lata Bij. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so we are wandering, and it is the mercy of the devotee that one can get the seed of devotional service, gets attached to the service of Lord Vasudeva. Actually, we all have devotional service in our heart. It's just become dormant. Because all of us are spirit souls, part and parcel of Krishna. We all have love for Krishna in our heart. It's just become covered. But when we come in touch with a devotee, that the faith in the service arises. One wants to engage in the service of the Lord then. So that is the mercy of the devotee. Knowledge of Vasudeva requires many births to understand, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. After struggling for existence for many births, one may take shelter at the lotus feet of Vasudeva Krishna. So, one can decide then, should I wait for many, many birth and death and then surrender to Krishna, or should I surrender to Krishna right away? That Krishna doesn't force. That choice is ours. But he's saying that, okay, well, even if you don't surrender to me now, after many, many births and deaths, you will surrender to me. So when this happens, one actually becomes wise and surrenders unto him. That is the only way to stop the repetition of birth and death. So if we at all want to get out of the material world, we at all want to put an end to the material miseries, we have to go back to the spiritual world, and that can be done when we surrender to Krishna. This is confirmed in Caitaniya Caritamita Madhya 19.151 in the instructions given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Srila Rupa Goswami at the Ṛṣabhadeva Ghat. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. The living entity wanders throughout different planets in different forms and bodies, but if by chance he comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master, by the grace of the spiritual master, he receives Lord Krishna's shelter and his devotional life begins. So the mercy of Guru and Krishna is so important, that one becomes fortunate if one somehow or the other by chance comes in contact with the devotee, with the pure devotee, bona fide spiritual master. Any comments? Okay. 557. 557. Yada na pashyati ayatha guneham.
Yada na pashyati ayatha guneha.
Swarte pramata sahasa vipaschit.
Swa-arthe pramat sahasa vipaschit.
Tata smritirvindati tatra tapan.
Kat smriti vindati tatra tapan.
Asadya maithunyamagaram agya.
Asad methunyam agaramagyaha.
Even though one may be very learned and wise, he is mad if he does not understand that the endeavor for sense gratification is a useless waste of time. Being forgetful of his own interest, he tries to be happy in the material world, centering his interests around his home, which is based on sexual intercourse and which brings him all kinds of material miseries. In this way, one is no better than a foolish animal. In the lowest stage of devotional service, one is not an unalloyed devotee. Anyabhinashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. To be an unalloyed devotee, one must be freed from all material desires and untouched by fruitive activity and speculative knowledge. So when, of course, when one is beginning devotional service, one is just beginning to practice devotional life, one cannot immediately become a pure devotee. It's a process. Because pure devotee, as we just heard in the previous verse, means no material desires, no desire to become one with the Supreme, no desire for mystic perfection. On the lower platform, one may sometimes be interested in philosophical speculation with a tinge of devotion. However, at that stage, one is still interested in sense gratification and is contaminated by the modes of material nature. Influence of Maya is so strong that even a person advanced in knowledge actually forgets that he is Krishna's eternal servant. Therefore, he remains satisfied in his householder life, which is centered around sexual intercourse. Conceding to a life of sex, he agrees to suffer all kinds of material miseries. Due to ignorance, one is thus bound by the chain of material laws. So this is the what do you say, strength of Maya, the illusory potency, Maya, that even if one has knowledge, oh, I'm not the body, I'm the soul, one still forgets. So this is what here he's saying, that even though one may be very learned and wise, so this is the reason one needs to engage in devotional service, because only knowledge that, okay, I'm the spirit soul, that does not help. We need to engage in devotional service, then Krishna helps us. Our heart gets purified. One is taking shelter of Krishna then, one is depending on Krishna to take one out of the material world. So reading on 558. Pumsastriyamithuni bhavam etam.
Pumsam istriyamithuni bhavam etam.
Tayor mitohridaya granthim ahu.
Tayor mitaridayam granthim ahu.
Ato grihashetra sutapta vitter.
Ato grashetra sutapta vritte.
Janasya mohoyam aham mameti.
Janasya mo'ayam aham mameti.
The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. Janasya moho aham mameti. I and mine. Sex serves as the natural attraction between man and woman, and when they are married, their relationship becomes more involved. Due to the entangling relationship between man and woman, there is a sense of delusion whereby one thinks, this man is my husband or this woman is my wife. This is called Hridaya Granthi, the hard knot in the heart. Hridaya Granthi. It binds us to the material world, this knot in the heart. This knot is very difficult to undo, even though a man and woman separate either for the principles of Varna Sharma or simply to get a divorce. In any case, the man always thinks of the woman and the woman always thinks of the man. So one may artificially deny that there is no attachment, but there is. It's a very deep attachment. And even if there is separation, still the attachment is there. Thus, a person becomes materially attached to family, property, and children. Although all of these are temporary. Even though we read, but then we forget. So bewildered, so much in illusion, completely forget. And then we just go about thinking, oh, this is mine, this is mine, oh, this is mine. The possessor unfortunately identifies with his property and wealth. Sometimes, even after renunciation, one becomes attached to a temple or to the few things that constitute the property of a sannyasi. But such attachment is not as strong as family attachment. The attachment to the family is the strongest illusion. In the Satya Samhita, it is stated, Brahmadhya Yajna Vakadya Muchyante Stri Sahayana Bodhayante Kecha Naitasham Vishesham Cha Vido Viduhu. Sometimes it is found among exalted personalities like Lord Brahma that the wife and children are not a cause of bondage. On the contrary, the wife actually helps further spiritual life and liberation. Nonetheless, most people are bound by the knots of the marital relationship, and consequently, they forget their relationship with Krishna. Yeah, like Lord Brahma, of course. He's a great personality. His children, Narad Muni, four Kumaras, Lord Shiva, such great personalities. And then wife, Saraswati Devi. So all are helping him in his spiritual life. But what to do about us? We get bound by family attachment, bound by family ties, forgetting our relationship with Krishna. 559. Yada
And we have also read
Manohita.
about the Puranjan Maharaj.
Puranj.
It was like
Yeah.
he loved the wife so much that he has to take birth as a female body. So our desires and our attachment, we need to be very careful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we are hearing now in this section, right? Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
We just heard about Puranjana, same about family attachment. Now we are hearing
Yes.
from Lord Ṛṣabhadeva the same.
So that means that this is so important that again and again that is emphasized. If we forgot, and we have to, because we are human, it's our tendency to forget. So if we forgot in case, then it's again a stern reminder that listen, that is not the right way to live the life.
Yeah, and because the attachment is so strong, we are not able to understand, oh, it's temporary, it's temporary. It's
Yeah.
so strong. That's what we just heard, Hridaya Granthis. It's like a
Yes.
hard, tight knot, very difficult to give it
Yes.
up.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yada Manohridaya Granthirasya
Yada manoridaya granthi asya
Karmanubhav Drida Ashlatheta
karmanu anubandho drid ashayetha
Tada Jana Sampari Vartate Sman
tatha jan samparvaritartate asmat
Mukta Paramyati Atihaya Hetu.
mukta param yati atihaya hetum.
When the strong knot in the heart of a person implicated in material life due to the results of past action is slackened, one turns away from his attachment to home, wife, and children. In this way, one gives up the basic principle of illusion, I and mine, and becomes liberated. Thus, one goes to the transcendental world. So the purport. Vaishnava Prabhupada, when by associating with sadhus and engaging in devotional service, one is gradually freed from the material conception due to knowledge, practice, and detachment, the knot of attachment in the heart is slackened. Thus, one can get freed from conditional life and become eligible to return home back to Godhead. So now is the solution. Lord Ṛṣabhadeva is saying what happens, right? What happens to us in the material world? We have the Hridaya Granthis, the heart knot. It's like a deep illusion that we are in. So what to do? Associate with sadhus and engage in devotional service. So when one does that, gradually one can give up this I and mine. Because one gets knowledge, then one practices and detachment due to knowledge, practice, and detachment. So we can see that when one engages in devotional service in the association of the devotees, then automatically one can get detached from the material world, one gets causeless knowledge. So because one gets the causeless knowledge, one is able to detach oneself from the world. And then like this, go back home, back to Godhead. This is liberation, can get freed from conditional life. So what is the process here that Lord Ṛṣabhadeva is saying?
Associates with sadhus and engage in devotional service.
Yeah, then what happens?
Then we get the free from the material conceptions of me and I.
Get the
Yes.
knowledge.
Yeah, and the
Practice.
knots are untied.
Yes.
And then we can go
Knowledge.
back home. We get the knowledge and then we can go back home to Godhead.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So he's showing us how one can get liberated, associate with the sadhu, and engage in devotional service. Same Lord Kapila Dev told his mother Devahuti that get attached to the sadhu, get attached to the devotee. And this is how we can give up the attachment to the material. Because we may think, okay, I'm going to just give up my attachment. I'm going to give up. But we can't. Till the time we don't have something better, we can't give up what we are holding on to. Once we realize, okay, I have something better, then we are able to let go. Till that time, it's very difficult to let go. We may artificially say, yeah, let go, but it doesn't happen. So when one engages in devotional service in the association of devotees, then one can gradually, it's also, one may say, oh, well, I did it today. Then how come I'm still in the material world? How come I didn't get liberated? Gradually. Yeah. So continuing to hear and chant, worship the deity, remember Krishna in the association of devotees. Text 10 to 13. Hamse Gurumai Bhaktyanuvritya
Hamse Gurumai Bhaktya Anivritya
Vitris Nayadvan Vadite Kshayacha
Vrittikshana Dvandatikshayache
Sarvatra Jantor Vyasanavagatya
Sarvatra Janto Vyasanavagatya
Jigyasaya Tapa Seha Nivritya
Jigyasaya Tapasa Iha Nivritya
Madkarma Birmat Kathaya Chanityam
Matkarma Bhimat Kathaya Chanityam
Maddeva Sangad Gunakirtananme
Maddev Sangat Gunakirtanatme
Nirvera Samyo Pashamena Putra
Nirvair samya upashamen putra.
jihasaya deha gehatma buddhe.
Jihasaya deha geh atma buddhi.
Adhyatma yogena vivekta sevaya.
Agyatma yogen vivat sevaya.
Pranendriyatma bhijayena sadryak.
Pranendriyatma abhijayen sadhyaka.
Sakshadaya brahmacharyena shasvat.
Sat shraddhaya brahmacharyena shashvat.
Asam pramadena yamena vacha.
Amsam pramadena yamena vacham.
Sarvatra madbhava vichakshanena.
Sarvatra matbhava vichakshena jnanena.
Jnanena vijnana virajitena.
Jnanena vijnana virajitena.
Yogena dhriti udyama sattva yukto.
Yogena dhriti udham sattva.
Lingam vyapohet kuchaloham akhyam.
Viplang yoham yukta viklam vyapohet kushlam aham akhyam.
O my sons, you should accept a highly elevated Paramhams, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should place your faith and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically, inquire about the truth. Then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances for the sake of devotional service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with devotees. Chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home and practice reading the revealed scriptures. Live in a secluded place and practice the process by which you can completely control your life air, mind, and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. Always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus, practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego. In these 4 verses, Ṛṣabhadeva tells his sons how they can be freed from the false identification arising from false ego and material conditional life. So, false ego, we are all saying, how can I give up my false ego? What can I do? So, one gradually becomes liberated by practicing as mentioned above. All these prescribed methods enable one to give up the material body, lingam vyapohet, and be situated in his original spiritual body. So each of us have a spiritual body. After we give up the material body, then we should try to get a spiritual body so that we can go back home, back to Godhead. In the spiritual world, everyone has spiritual bodies. First of all, one has to accept a bona fide spiritual master. So accepting, getting initiated by bona fide spiritual master. This is advocated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Shri Guru Padashrayaha. That's the first item of devotional service, as Srila Rupa Goswami gives. To be free from the entanglement of the material world, one has to approach a spiritual master. So we are entangled. We are bound in the material world. You're bound by the modes. The modes are, like suppose you're sitting on a chair, and then somebody ties ropes and ropes and ropes around us. Will we be able to move? No, we won't be able to move. We won't be able to free ourselves. So we need somebody who's free to come and open us. And that one who's free is the bona fide spiritual master. Because he is free, he can free us. Because he's liberated, he can liberate us. So tad vijnanartham sa gurum eva vigachet. By questioning the spiritual master and by serving him, one can advance in spiritual life. So even Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 34, tatvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshayanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshina. He says you approach a bona fide spiritual master and you inquire from him submissively. So you inquire, and then he says you serve him. So both are needed, inquiry and service. So when one engages in devotional service, naturally the attraction for personal comfort, for eating, sleeping, and dressing is reduced. Because one is getting a higher taste then. We are all looking for enjoyment. Wherever we enjoy more, that's what we are going to do. So the devotee, he's experiencing higher enjoyment by engaging in devotional service. So automatically he gives up the lower taste for the material. By associating with the devotee, a spiritual standard is maintained. The word Mad Deva Sangat is very important. There are many so-called religions devoted to the worship of various demigods. But here good association means association with one who simply accepts Krishna as his worshipable deity. So associating with the devotee of Krishna. Another important item is Dvandva Titiksha. As long as one is situated in the material world, there must be pleasure and pain arising from the material body. That's the law. Sometimes we'll be getting pleasure, sometimes we will be getting pain. As Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita, Tam Stitikshasva Bharata. This is Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text 14, that just tolerate the temporary happiness and distress. What we do is we invite the happiness, but when distress comes, we get so restless. We're like, why? But Krishna is saying, tolerate. One has to learn how to tolerate the temporary pains and pleasures of this material world. It's temporary. The pain is temporary, and the pleasure is also temporary. One must also be detached from his family and practice celibacy. Sex with one's wife, according to the scriptural injunctions, is also accepted as brahmacharya, celibacy. But illicit sex is opposed to religious principles and it hampers advancement in spiritual consciousness. So sex within the family, according to religious principles. Within the marriage, rather, not family, sorry for that. Marriage. Another important word is Vijnana Virajita. Everything should be done very scientifically and consciously. One should be a realized soul. In this way, one can give up the entanglement of material bondage. One should be a realized soul. So everything done scientifically and consciously. Being like, as we say, being mindful. Practicing mindfulness, we have been saying, we hear nowadays a lot. So understanding what I'm doing, why am I doing it, where is it going to take me? As Srimad Bhagavatam points out, the sum and substance of these 4 shlokas is that one should refrain from acting out of a desire for sense gratification and should instead always engage in the Lord's loving service. In other words, Bhakti Yoga is the acknowledged path of liberation. So Madhvacharya, a great acharya in our line, is that one should engage in devotional service. The more one engages in devotional service, the more one will be able to give up material desires. In other words, Bhakti Yoga is the acknowledged path of liberation. So by engaging in devotional service, one will get liberated. It's automatic. It's a given that it will happen. Srimad Bhagavatam quotes from the Adhyatma, Atmano Vihitam Karma Varjayit Vanya Karmana Kamasya Cha Parityago Niriheti Ahur Uttama. One should perform activities only for the benefit of the soul. Any other activity should be given up. When a person is situated in this way, he is said to be desireless. Actually, a living entity cannot be totally desireless. But when he desires the benefit of the soul and nothing else, he is said to be desireless. So, we may think desireless means nothing, having nothing, but it's not possible. We are individuals. We are always conscious. We cannot have nothing or be nothing. So we will have a desire. So desiring for the benefit of the soul, that is actual desirelessness. Desiring to please Krishna, that is actual desirelessness. Spiritual knowledge is Gyan Vigyan Samanvitam. When one is fully equipped with Gyan and Vigyan, he's perfect. Gyan means that one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, to be the Supreme Being. Vigyan refers to the activities that liberate one from the ignorance of material existence. So Gyan, knowledge. Knowledge to understand Krishna, Lord Vishnu, is Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the Supreme Being, He's God. So that's knowledge. And now Vigyan is the science, means application of the knowledge, means doing the activities which can help us get out of the material world. Engaging in activities which will help us get out of here. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 31, Jnanam Param Guhyam, Me Yad Vijnana Samanvitam. Knowledge of the Supreme Lord is very confidential, and the supreme knowledge by which one understands Him furthers the liberation of all living entities. This knowledge is Vijnana. So, knowledge of Supreme Lord is very confidential. Not many people know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and not many people understand this knowledge. And supreme knowledge, now what is scientific knowledge? Is how we can act in relation to God. So understanding there is God, and then understanding, how can I act in my relation to God? What should I do? That's a higher knowledge. So this knowledge is Vijnana, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyakva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sorjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So Krishna is saying, try to understand that Krishna's body, Krishna's form is transcendental. Krishna's leelas are transcendental. Krishna's birth is transcendental. Appearance. Krishna appears and disappears is transcendental. Krishna is saying, if you understand this, you can get liberation. No more coming to the material world. You can go back to the spiritual world. So many times we are being reminded to understand that Krishna's body is transcendental, not material. Krishna's activities, pastimes are transcendental. The more we hear about Krishna, the more our heart gets purified, the more we can get out of this material world. Any questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening and enjoying. In Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.